Hey, welcome back to another edition of A Warrior Spirit, where we let the inner warrior out to light. Today, I'm with my good friend Allegra. Allegra is a small business owner. She owns a crystal and unique gift shop, as well as she's a Zumba instructor and personal friend. So I appreciate your time today, Allegra. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to hearing your story.
Thank you so much, Daryl. It's an honor to be here, and I really appreciate your assistance along the way with the coaching that you've offered me, and I'm just so grateful to be here today. This is my second interview that I've ever done, so I feel really comfortable with you, and I'm grateful for all of your help and mentorship. So thank you for having me on today.
Well, I appreciate that. Actually, because we have worked together in a business relationship, it's actually allowed you to get on stage for the first time and actually share your story in public, right?
Yes, definitely. Yes. Yeah, that was a big step for me. And thank you for all of the encouragement, because I feel like that was a huge step. It was a huge step, and I probably wouldn't even be doing this interview today had I not kind of broken the ice doing that. So thanks for the encouragement and the guidance along the way with that big step in my life this year.
Well, I'm glad that we were able to help find your voice and get you, on your journey again. You suffered some loss as a child. Your brother passed away at an early age in a car accident. How did that affect you?
So when I was 12 years old, my only brother died in a car accident, and it was my father, my mother, myself, and my brother. And so the way that I would describe that it affected me is it changed all of our lives, our entire lives upside down. What we once knew no longer existed. We sort of had to learn how to relive again, and the trauma of losing someone like that was just so immense. And the fact that I was 12 years old, there's actually, physical, psychological problems that take place when you're developing and you have a trauma like that, So I have dealt with PTSD since then, since 12 years old. And so it's definitely one of my mental health challenges that I deal with. And it's something that has also allowed me to grow as an individual. That death was very traumatic. And through it all, I feel like it has brought so much growth to me personally, learning how to heal from that, as well as my family. It's brought us a lot closer as a family unit because when you go through something like that at 12 years old, it really gives you a different perspective. There's many people that never lose somebody close to them until they lose their grandparents maybe, or they're older in age. And so to have something like that happen to you at a young age, it really is taken me a lifetime to work through those issues that I had sustained from that loss. And lots of work, lots of self-discovery, lots of stumbles and falls along the way. It hasn't been easy healing from that major loss, but it is definitely something that I feel I have worked on and continue to work on. The way that I dealt with my brother's loss is that I pretended that it never happened. So what I did is I burned all of his photos. I wouldn't talk about it until about 4 or 5 years ago. I started acknowledging that I actually had sustained a loss. And so the grief that comes along with that is something that's just really important to work through. And it's really intense. And it's something that I'm glad that I finally decided to look at, because pretending it didn't happen, burying it under the rug, not talking about it, that doesn't help any. It definitely created many issues in my lifetime, many self-harming behaviors, many pent-up emotions, and so that said, I'm just glad to be healing from it and being able to process it and help others with their grief through it as well.
So when you were 12, this traumatic thing happened to you, and you didn't really deal with it until 4 years ago. So that's a good long span of time bottling it up. Did you lash out? Did you have self-destructive behaviors? Did you use drugs and alcohol? I mean, what did you use to bury all of that pain?
Well, pretty much all of the above. I definitely had a closed heart. That was the first thing, to where I wouldn't let anybody get close to me. I wouldn't trust people. And I also went through the phase of self-numbing or trying to pacify my emotions with alcohol, as well as barbiturates that I've taken. And so as far as the destructive behavior, there were times that my emotions got so intense and so just hard to control that I also have cut myself. I was a cutter for a while. I have scars all over my arms because there was a time when I just couldn't handle what I was feeling and didn't want to be here. And there were several times that I wished that I could just escape from this earth. As far as not being here anymore, not wanting to feel pain. I feel like I disconnected myself from people that love me. And it's only recently that I've started to trust again and to love again and to allow people into my heart space, because I went through many years of anger. And after my brother passed away, I had, when I was younger, I had a very strong connection to Creator, and I was always, I had these little altars, and I would always pray, and I would always talk to Creator. And then when that happened, I became very angry, and I closed my heart, and I was like, if you really loved me, how could you take away my only brother, my hero, my protector, And so that for me caused a lot of anger. Yes, I have had issues where, like I would just get really upset, not know how to deal with it. And it took me many years. I got into destructive relationships as far as them not being healthy and the dynamics not being healthy. I've also, been around people that haven't been in the best of my interest or my growth as a person. And, as I started healing and stuff, one of the outlets that I used to help process that anger, I guess, if you will, is working out. And so I started taking a class, a dance fitness class, like 7 years ago. And I really just loved it. And I loved the way it felt, before I would work out in a gym and stuff like that. But I think for me, really finding ways to deal with my anger in a healthy way, whether that's journaling, whether that's talking to somebody, whether that's working out, whether that's meditating, sometimes going out to nature and just screaming, that also helps, But for me, yes, I did go down many self-destructive behaviors, and I was surrounded by people who were not the best in my interest as far as like being positive people. So I spent a lot of time just being angry and resentful and like, what the heck, it was hard every time there was a birthday or a special event. And for example, when my daughter was born, my daughter, Aaliyah, is now 23 years old. And when she was born, you always have those bittersweet moments when you lose somebody, because I was so happy to have my daughter, wish I could introduce her to my brother. And even though they know each other, I'm sure in the spirit world they've met, but for me, that was, those moments are always moments that you're going to think about your loved ones and miss them. And so I think for me, the biggest thing is that it's important to talk about it. Like when this happened, let's see, I was 12 years old. So that was 30 plus years ago. And what I learned from the experience is that in this society, and I hope we're getting better about it, but grief and death is something that's not talked about nearly enough. So in other words, we're taught, how to look, how to appear to others, how to be popular, how to be liked, but we're never really taught about the other side of life, the real side of life. And that's the fact that we're all terminal. And so what that means is we're all going to die one day, and we're not taught how to deal with that fact of life, that it's just part of being human. I mean, we're here, we're going to pass away one day. And so for me, what's really helped is speaking about it, and also letting others know that it's okay to speak about it. Some of the reactions, I guess, that I have experienced throughout my grief in my life have been comments like, it's okay, let him rest in peace. It's okay, let him rest. We don't need to bring it up anymore. And so what I think people who have never lost somebody don't understand is that grief is a lifelong process. It's not something that you're going to get over tomorrow or the next day. I still grieve for my brother, and there's still times, that his memory will always be alive to me. And what I've learned recently is that I'm going to continue honoring that and speaking about that and speaking about him, and encouraging others who have lost people to do the same, because I just really feel like that's an area in this society that really needs addressing. And we really need more assistance and information and knowledge around grief and how to process it and how to deal with it. And so, even though it was a traumatic situation and it was very hard to go through, I'm very grateful for the experiences that it gave me, because I feel like, 30 years ago, I discovered a deeper meaning of life, and I don't look at life the same as, let's say, someone else that has never lost somebody, because when I was 12 years old, I found out just how fragile this life is. And I never take that for granted. And I never take people around me that I care for and appreciate and love for granted either.
Well, that's the problem with our society today. As you mentioned, grief is a process, and some people can grieve for a day, some people can grieve for a lifetime, and it's not a one size fits all blanket solution, right?
Right.
But the process of the grief is to honor the person that you're missing, that you're lost, and not bury them into self-destructive behaviors, because you can honor them in ways that are proactive, productive, as opposed to destructive, but people's mental health is not a one blanket, size fits all, and that gets missed a lot, right? Because really they're not telling you to get over the loss, they're telling you to get over the behavior that you're acting. And when you're acting out and doing those self-destructive things, that's what they're really trying to tell you to get over, right?
Yes.
Because we never stop missing our loved ones, and that's what the grief is. Now, it's interesting that, this has been a 30-year process. Your daughter's 23, and you said that you haven't started healing until the last 6 years. How did your relationship with your daughter change from then till now?
I feel like it's gotten so much stronger. When my daughter was born, that was a big step in my life. Part of my heart was open, because there's this amazing, beautiful little girl that is now mine. And, she's not mine, she belongs to God, but she calls me mom. And it's like, wow, it's been such a beautiful experience. And that definitely opened my heart. But as I heal even more, I realize just how amazing and beautiful she is. And so the way that our relationship has changed is we've gotten so much closer. I've always loved my daughter and I've always held her dear to my heart. But as far as when you take off those chains and shackles and hurt and disappointment, and for me, a lot of my lifetime I spent in fear of losing somebody that I loved. And so what do you do when you spend your life in fear? You hold back. You don't tell them how you feel for them. You're afraid to express yourself because you're afraid of loss. So I spent many years in that mode. And when I stopped doing that, my daughter and I really have gotten close. And I've just noticed that she has so much admiration for me and so much respect for me, and I for her. And our relationship has gotten so much better. And I'm just so grateful that it has. And I'm so grateful that I was open to receiving her love. And I feel like, if you're not open to receive love, you're really not giving it all that you can either. And so I'm just grateful that I'm able to give that love to my daughter that she so deserves. I always tell her we grew up together. I had her when I was 21 years old. So I was a baby myself. And, sometimes we'll be talking and joking. We do spend a lot of time together. And she's one of the only persons that can make me laugh as hard as she does. And I'm like, Aaliyah, we grew up together. And she's like, we kind of did. She's like, I couldn't imagine, because she's 23, having a daughter at my age like you did. And so I feel as she's gotten older and she's kind of had her own experiences as a young woman, she kind of sees me a little different and what I've been through a little different. And so I just love that. I really love that she can kind of see what I've been through and have compassion for maybe the way that I was as a mother while she was growing up, because having all those emotional and mental health issues, I mean, how present can you really be? I was present, but there was definitely things that I could have done different or better. But I'm okay with that. I have no regrets because I did the best that I could do. And so here today, I just sit here grateful that I have a beautiful daughter and that our relationship has gotten so much better.
Well, one thing that you're doing is you're showing your child that life is going to take swings at you. It may knock you down, but as long as you get back up and still move forward, it can still be a good, beneficial life. And in the midst of all of your struggle, life decided to play another card, right? The breast implant illness. And this is an illness that is near and dear to my heart because my wife suffers from it as well. And basically, you were both poisoned by your implants, and both of you have had a struggle to overcome the heavy metal toxicity. I'm not sure if you were near death like she was, because she was arsenic poisoned from hers, but it's given her brain fog, fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue, and all of these ailments are internal. So when the world looks at you, they say, oh, well, why are you sick? You look perfect, right? But you're being poisoned from the inside out. How long ago did you suffer the breast implant illness? And the one thing I was going to say is one thing that, like, society has this thing that women have to look a certain way. So there becomes this talk with yourself that I'm not good enough unless I have these external things. And so then you enhance your body, and some people get sick from it, some don't, but the silicone in the implants leach into your body, poison you with all the chemicals that are in them. And there are 50 heavy metals in the silicone. There's titanium, aluminum, plutonium, arsenic, kerosene, the stuff that you take on your nail polish, all this crap that they don't tell you about. They just say, hey, it's going to make you look pretty and enhance you. But then when it poisons you, they want to deny that that's what poisoned you.
Yes,
So
definitely.
how long ago did that happen to you? And how long ago did that happen to you? And how long has your process been from healing from that?
So I got my implants roughly about 10 years ago, and I'm going to go back to that just a little bit and touch on what you said. Yes. So when, I was in my early 30s, I feel like I have always been an attractive woman. And so part of that pressure is, looking a certain way. So around my 30s, 10 years ago, there was a big thing. I mean, everybody in the societies, if you've been alive in America, you've experienced it. I mean, everybody's putting plastic in their body. It's not an exception anymore. It's like kind of everybody just does that now. And it was definitely, that way, not so much, but when I was younger, of course, I wanted to have this confidence, and I was born with a mild deformity where part of my breast, one side was a lot bigger than the other. And so I always had this insecurity about it. And as I got older, as a single mother, and was looking, back then for a relationship, because I was also conditioned and programmed that, oh gosh, it's bad to be a single mom. You need a man in this picture really quick. And so part of what I did is I started, doing what everyone was doing. I got my implants done. I got silicone implants. And after I got them, I felt amazing. I'm not going to lie. I had the way that my body looked was great. I mean, I had curves, I had nice boobs, I had a great shape. And I was fine for about maybe 5 years having those. And the whole time that I had them, I always have worked out, but I started noticing like 5 years after getting them that I was getting these really bad migraines. And these migraines were like every day, 28, 29 days it's going on, and I was like, well, let me make an appointment with the doctor. Let me see what this is. So, and I want to talk about the way that, touch on what you said also. This illness is something that is not as recognized as I feel it should be, and it doesn't get as much publicity as it can. And when you are involved in medical gaslighting and you're a victim of medical gaslighting, because I went to so many different doctors. And the process was, okay, let's go ahead and give you an antidepressant because you're depressed. Because my symptoms, I started getting the migraines, I started feeling depression, anxiety, and I've always had depression because I lost my brother at a young age, but I noticed that it was getting really bad. Inflammation was amazing. Like, wow, all of a sudden I'm gaining 15 pounds around my cycle. Like, this is ridiculous and it's painful, and hair loss I was experiencing, a cough. I still have a cough, but it's like, all these things that I'm going through, and otherwise, I'm fine. My vitals are fine. My blood's fine. I look okay according to the medical system. So they start treating me for all these different ailments. And of course, the major one was my migraines. So, they start saying, oh, well, I guess you have migraines. So I went on like 20 different medications. And I've been through tryptophan, sumatriptan, all of these nerve blockers, and most of them had worse side effects than what they helped. Mm-hmm. So I finally found, so they started putting me on antidepressants. So now I'm on Lexapro, Paxil. I'm trying all these different antidepressants, anti-anxiety. Now for the migraines, we're going to give you all these different medications to try. So my medication of choice was barbiturate. So they gave me a pill called Fioricet, and that Fioricet had caffeine, it had barbiturates, and it made me feel really good. And it took away my headache. But what I didn't realize is that it was very much habit forming. And so after about, 3-4 months, all of a sudden I'm like, okay, do I really need this, or am I taking this? And when I really started noticing that I had an issue was like when my prescription would run out and I'd go back to the doctor, and the doctor would tell me, it's too soon. We can't refill it. You need to stop taking it so often. So all of a sudden, and I went through phases like that for a while. So now I'm without this, and I'm having these really horrible physical symptoms on top of my migraines. Now I'm craving this pill, and I'm like going back to the doctor, and the doctors, what they're doing is telling me, well, it's you. There's something wrong with you. You really need to stop taking all of that medication, knowing that this medication is habit forming, knowing that. And so I went back and forth many years like that. I was also on a list, when you get medication so often, they put you on the Drug Enforcement Agency where you have to give them your ID every time. I started doing things like, okay, my doctor's not giving me my pills anymore. I'm going to go to another doctor. And in that process, begging for help, like, number one, I want my migraines to go away. And number two, I really don't want to have to need this medication every day. And so, when you don't feel well, you really you can't function. Like for me, I had a stressful job. I've had a stressful job for many years. So I would always have a lot of stress. And on the weekends, it's like, this is my time to unwind. So part of me helping myself was I would drink. And so, I would medicate by drinking, and I'd be taking my barbiturates as well. And I went through many years, and thank God that I'm still here, because that's a deadly combination. I mean, doing those two, it's a miracle that I'm here, to be honest. And I'm grateful about that. But I just, the medical gaslighting, the fact that I went to all of these doctors and I told them, and they did blood tests, and it wasn't until, let's say, 4 or 5 years ago that I found a therapist that I started seeing when I moved to a different town. And, I want to talk about therapy a little, because I've been in therapy my whole life, being that I lost my brother at a young age. I've been in therapy. I've had different therapists. And I feel like up until 4 or 5 years ago, I had no luck with therapists. And I also feel that's because I think it's just the system in general, because anything that was covered by my insurance was really not a good therapy for me. I remember having therapists that I would go home and my mom would say, how did it go? And I'd say it was fine. She watched her kids while I sat there and played with toys. And that was like my therapy. And my mom was like, wow. So moving on, I found this therapist that was just amazing. And she helped me start to really just heal. And part of, what she did is she started asking me all these health assessment questions. And she's not from the state that I'm from. So she came from outside. She had 30 years plus clinical experience. So she's worked with so many women. And she's also a Latina, which I thought was really cool because she could relate to my culture. And there was a lot of things that I thought were amazing. And just to touch on that, in my culture, it's like big time, like, you got to get your enhancements done, and it's almost expected. You're supposed to be dolled up all the time, and so I started talking to her about my health issues, and she started doing a health questionnaire, asking me questions. And the first thing that she tackled was the barbiturates. And she's like, I am just so disappointed that the health field has not, addressed this. So she started addressing that, and she really helped me get off of that medication, because she showed me all of the stuff that it was doing and the dangers. And so I did it kicking and screaming. And the next thing she started doing is just asking me, your diet, your health, what are we dealing with? So I didn't know that it would be important, but I mentioned to her, I do have my implants and I do get swollen. And she's like, wait a minute, we have to talk about this. Have you ever heard of breast implant illness? And I said, no, I haven't. So that was the first time in my life that I ever heard about that. Was from a therapist that came from a different state. And, as she started telling me this, I started researching it, and it was like, wow. And then I got on these Facebook groups, and it was like, wow, this is totally me, and so to take a step further, I went to an alternative practitioner, healthcare practitioner. And this lady, she's kind of a natural herbalist. And I told her, my situation, and she gave me blood tests that could determine the amount of toxicity and different levels in my system. We did a whole panel, a bunch of different tests, and at that time we determined that yes, I did have levels that were not, acceptable in my body, toxicity levels, as you were mentioning. And I think the big thing about the breast implant illness that women don't understand is that when you put something foreign in your body, it's just not going to work out. I mean, it doesn't matter. I know there's plenty of women that I have talked to about it, and they say, well, I've never had a symptom. And I'm happy that they haven't, but I think that everybody needs to be aware that you're putting chemicals into your body, period. And those chemicals are going to go somewhere. And eventually it's going to bite you in the butt. I mean, that's just the way it is. And the more plastic you have in your body, now I know there's bottom enhancements, booty enhancements that people are doing left and right. I don't have experience with that. But as far as the implants go, I can tell you that I had no idea. I had no clue. That was the last thing that I would have ever thought of. I was like, okay, maybe I have something with my brain. Maybe I have, some kind of, I had no idea what was going on. So as soon as I started looking into that, I had to make a decision. And I had to make a decision whether or not I wanted to keep those implants in my body or not. And as you well know, Daryl, because you know about the process with your wife, when you get surgery, you can have the capsule explanted. And I did not do that. I had it cauterized, but I didn't have it removed. And so that I had done 2 years ago. But just to talk about the psychology of getting that done, I sit here today and I'm like, wow, at the time I was in a relationship, and the thoughts that went through my mind were, well, I wonder if he'll still find me attractive, or, I'm not sure that I want to give these up because I look really good in a bathing suit, and when I sit here from this point of growth and I look back at that, I think that's really sad that women would actually think about those things instead of about their health. And I hold no blame for that. I just know that it's the way that we're conditioned and programmed. But I don't believe that way anymore. I really don't. I'm making that decision was probably one of the best decisions that I made. And I'm not going to lie, it was during COVID. I was terrified, that I have to have the surgery and we're in a pandemic. And, what if I'm not going to make it through the surgery? What if I'm not going to, like the results at the end? And so I had them removed, and I have to say that was probably one of the best things that I've ever done. Since I had them removed, I've had like 70% of my symptoms go away. And I do believe that I am healing, and I do believe that every day I get closer to a healthier body. And a lot of that has been, I think that up until the point that I started having these issues with my health, and I think all of us, for that matter, take our health for granted. We take the simple fact that we can wake up and we can think clearly without a migraine, and that we can get up and we can walk, that our body's not so inflamed that it hurts all over. As you were mentioning about your wife, I have joint pain, severe joint pain all over all the time. And it gets worse around my cycle. It has decreased, but, just really experiencing that, I feel, because I don't feel like I was old when I started experiencing all this. And when you start having your body break down like that, it's like, wow, I really appreciate the health that I had. And so the other thing is, as women, we're taught that we have to carry a certain amount of, poise. We can't be talking about our breasts. We can't be too sexual. We can't be too sexy. But on the other hand, there's the expectation of, you must look like this. You must be shaped like this. You have these models all over the internet, and you have all of these sort of ideations of what a woman should look like. And so, for me, if I spend the rest of my days fighting that, that's what I'm going to do, because I think it's total bullshit, to be honest. And I think that women really need to step up and honor themselves and respect themselves for the way that they are, period. And I think it's great to work on yourself, but I just feel like, especially for the younger women, you know, there's so much pressure, so much just unnecessary. Life is already hard enough without having to look like a, you know, a Barbie doll or a social ideal, you know. So I would say since I removed my implants, I am definitely doing better. I'm so glad that I did it. It's definitely given me a different perspective and appreciation for life. And it was really hard for me in the beginning to talk about something so intimate like, you know, your breast as a woman. But I feel like the more that I talk about it and the more that I hear these women that are, you know, thinking about it, you know, you mentioned that I did my first speech or testimony the other day. That was about 2 weeks ago, and I did. And I have to tell you that at the end of my testimony, I did have a young woman that came up to me, and she was in tears, and she said, "I want you to know that you changed my mind today." And I was like, oh my gosh, that's just like an amazing feeling. Like I'm even getting teary-eyed, but.
Yeah, I think that it's and I've been dealing with this with my wife for 8 years, and you know, we spent the first 2 years almost every day at the doctor's office, and was told that it's in your head, nothing's wrong. Yet she had surgery after surgery for some cysts on her stomach. So hers started in her stomach and not her migraines, but so she had multiple surgeries to remove the cysts, and then the ironic thing about breast implants is that, oh, you're supposed to have them changed out every 10 years. Well, why is that? Because they're breaking down. Well, where does that go in your body, right? They don't tell you those parts, right? And so she actually had 2 sets, and so she had all that extra illness. And then because they wouldn't admit that it's the breast implants, they gave her a full hysterectomy, which she didn't need. And so now we had to actually force the doctor to do the arsenic test. And we got a call. My wife is on her deathbed, literally writing out her obituary, saying her goodbyes to her family, looking like an half part of herself. And I'm having to carry her from room to room. She can't even walk. And we get a call from the doctor saying, I'm so sorry. I didn't expect this, but you have arsenic poisoning. Yeah, no shit. My wife is dying. I can tell you that. Right. And we actually gave studies to the doctors that showed that breast implant illness caused all this stuff. And they literally looked at them and tossed them on their desk and said, nope, that's not it. We had, you talked about the weight gain and the hair loss. We had one doctor tell her, well, you can go to the gym for your weight, and at your age, the hair does start to come out. I tell you, and she hasn't been able to work for 6 years now because of this. She hasn't fully regained her health. She hasn't regained her quality of life. She'll be the first to share her story. So I'm not sharing anything that she hasn't already shared, but her quality of life is not good, and it's directly because of the heavy metal toxicities in her body. So breast implant illness is real. It is something that I'm very passionate about because I see the destructive nature of it. And is it going to happen to everyone? No, but it's going to happen to enough. But if you actually inform a woman of what they're putting into their body and they choose to do that, fine, at least they did it informed. But you're not told that there's plutonium, aluminum, titanium, arsenic, kerosene, all this crap. 50 heavy metals are put into those. And what they don't tell you, and this is the part that pisses me off, and you had the saline, right? Or you had the silicone.
Silicone, yes. Yes.
Okay. So, but my wife had the saline, but what they don't tell you is that every single implant is encapsulated in silicone. So whether you get the silicone or the saline, you're getting silicone.
Yes.
All that's different is what's inside. So that chemical is going to affect and leach into your body potentially. And they don't tell you that. She thought she was doing the right thing by getting the saline. Oh, because it's not harmful. If it leaks, it's going to absorb in your body. They didn't tell her what the capsule's made out of. And that's the part that really angers me. If you're going to do it informed 100%, right?
Yes, I totally agree with that. And just to add to that, when I first got my implants, I remember sitting in the office with my mother and asking the surgeon, that was one of the questions we had in our little list that we went in because it's a major decision. My question was, is there any harm done by these? And that was his thing. Oh, well, after 10 years, you may have to get them replaced. But honestly, most women don't get them replaced. And, that was the first one. And I feel like my surgeon was I still have respect for my surgeon because he did his job, and he's actually the one that removed my implants. But not speaking bad about him in any way, but just saying the nature of the industry. When I went in to take them out, there was no acknowledgement of breast implant illness either. I mean, there was a recall sheet. And by the way, there are plenty implants that are recalled today that women are walking around with in their bodies. And you can find that list on the FDA website if you're interested, for anybody that has implants. But one of the things that they were mentioning when I went in for my consultation for the explant was just about how, that it's something that they've never had anyone that has experienced that type of illness, and they have no idea what I'm talking about. And you look great with your implants, by the way, but if you want to take them out, we'd be happy to do that. And so I remember on the consultation, because they take you back before your surgery to do these photos, I remember specifically because it hit me pretty hard, the nurse having me pose to the side, and I had my implants in, and she said, wow, they're so beautiful. Are you sure you want to take them out? They're gorgeous. And, that type of stuff is just like, here you are, I'm already having my doubts, but it's not anything that I hold against them because that's how they make their money. That's the industry that they're in. But I feel the same as you do, that if I had this information and I knew that there was a chance that I would get toxicity, heavy metal poisoning, you better believe that I would have never put that shit in my body. You better believe it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and the same surgeon that did her implants took them out, but she had to specifically ask him, if I were your wife, daughter, grandmother, sister, or anyone close to you, would you have them kept in? And he paused and he said, no, let's remove them. Because she put it back on the vision of if this was one of your loved ones, right?
Yes.
And so, then he removed them. But the industry is not, well, they'll open themselves up to lawsuits, but they'll never admit that is. But I think that they should fully inform somebody, and that's the part that really ticks me off, is that it's done under the guise of beautification without information.
Exactly. And I agree with you. I'm not against, as I mentioned before, I'm not against beautifying yourself. I clearly wear makeup. I love to dress up. I love my femininity and all that. But I feel like it's something that definitely should be discussed. And I know in October 22, the FDA issued a black box label stating that implants can cause anything up until cancer. And right now, the doctors have to give that to their patients while they go for their consultations. However, I still don't feel that's enough because it has no mention of the symptoms and the poisoning that you can, get from that. I think it's a good step, but I think that, women, if they're really interested and if this is a real thing, just do your research, check out the groups online. There's plenty of Facebook groups, there's plenty of Instagram groups. And I also, just want to say that part that I don't think there's anything wrong with taking care of yourself and beautifying yourself and dolling yourself up. However, I feel like you can do that in a natural way. I really do. And I'm all about it.
I appreciate that. Now, you used Zumba or dance to get past some of your traumas. What caused you to decide that you wanted to then become a Zumba teacher? And you also started your own craft store. So how have you use those to move past your trauma into a better life that you're currently living?
So with the Zumba, I started taking classes like 5 or 6 years ago, and that's kind of when I had met my therapist. And I feel like with the Zumba, I've always loved music and I've always danced. My mom has always said, since you came out of my womb, you were dancing. You've always been a dancer, and I have. And so when I really discovered that sport, or that, whatever you want to call it, hobby, I found a really amazing instructor, and he's still one of my mentors today. His name is Israel Cervantes. And he was just, when I took his class, I was like, wow, something inside of me just sparked, and I just felt it. I was like, oh my gosh, I want to do this again and again and again. And I feel like at that time, I was stopping to taking my pills, and I was definitely noticing that I had to stop drinking. And so for me, that was something that was like such a great feeling. I remember every Saturday he had class in Albuquerque, and I would do my hair, and it was like I started doing things differently. So, maybe before, when I was younger, I would get dressed and I'd go out, to bars, to clubs, to meet people. And now all of a sudden I'm going to dance class and I'm dressing up, and I'm like, so it became something that was really positive and really cool. I like to express myself through fashion a lot, and I can definitely do that in my Zumba gear. It's a way for me to dress up and have fun. It's a way to do something positive. And when I started getting into instructing, it was definitely because of Izzy, because of who he was in my life and what he represented to me. And, I was like, wow, I could do this, and for me, it was something that was not only helpful for others to teach them and to see their progress. Like, I've had several students that I've seen by my side that have lost up to 80 pounds. And that's really empowering just by coming to class, and taking care of their nutrition. And so for me, that was really empowering. But also, as far as therapy, for me, it was a way to release my emotions healthy. Like, when you move energy out of your body. And so for me, moving that energy, that grief, that anger, that frustration, and also the toxins from the breast implant illness, it's been huge. The sweating part, I've really gotten into the, science of that, of how healthy it really is to just get, your sweat on. And as far as instructing, it's something that I just started doing, and I love it. I teach virtually from home right now. And paired with that, I have this group online that's called That Good Vibration. And basically the group is a group that's an empowerment group. And the group is open to all people. My classes, I primarily deal with women in my classes, although I have had some men join, and that's awesome. Anybody that loves fitness or dance fitness is definitely welcome. And in that group, I also started a online store. So as I was mentioning, I've always had a taste for, cool fashion, different fashion. I've always had my own style. And so I decided to open up this little crystal and unique gift store. And so I've had one party so far, but moving forward, the plan is to have many different unique gifts, as well as many different crystal necklaces. And I'm really excited about that. I also have some cleansing supplies, spiritual cleansing supplies. And I'm really excited to be using all of the knowledge that I received from my second mom. Since I was 18 years old, my second mom, her name is Sherry Kennedy, and she was the director of the Sedona Creative Center for several years. And she has taught me so much. She's an author and she has a book. And, I've always had this knowledge, but I've always felt like weird sharing it. And so the fact that this season is me being me, 100% me, and taking out all the tool bags, everything that I have, I'm really excited about that. And I'm really excited to be putting my knowledge of how to do spiritual cleansings and how to do energy work and how to use crystals to raise your vibration, how to use energy to raise your vibration. And so even though my group is, Zumba and crystals, a lot of it, the purpose of it is intended to raise your vibration, as well as the other physical components that come along with it. Let's say with Zumba, you definitely can increase your health, your cardiovascular health, you can lose weight. And for me, it's just really a form of therapy in which to get through a lot of the hard times in life. I have been teaching virtually for about 2 years now, and in total for 6 years. And I feel like fitness and dance has always been a very integral part of my healing. I remember when my grandmother passed away, I turned on the music and I danced for like 4 hours in honor of her. And I feel like that was a very healthy way to deal with my grief, rather than the old way that I had dealt with my grief. So for me, it's definitely been a positive outlet, a way to do and to feel without talking. You can feel your emotions. I know sometimes I've been on that dance floor and tears have just been pouring through my eyes, and I love it. I just let it happen.
Well, I appreciate all that you have come from and what you're doing now. I will put some links or hashtags in the video comments area so that people can reach out to you, join your dance group, join your Facebook group, and check out your store as well. As we wrap this up, I'm going to ask you 2 questions. First, any final words that you would impart to anyone out there listening?
Yes, I just want to tell any woman out there listening that's doubting herself, her physical beauty, or her physical appearance, that you are worthy. And instead of, going for the quick fix like the surgery, take some time and really work on yourself, work on your inner being, and work on building your self-confidence and strength from the inside out, rather than going for quick fixes like surgeries and other stuff. Like I said, I'm all about beautifying yourself, but I feel like what I've learned is beauty really comes from within, and confidence is everything.
And the final question, you're a part of the Warrior Spirit tribe, my tribe. What does a warrior spirit mean to you?
A warrior spirit is a spirit that never dies. It's a spirit that doesn't give up, and it keeps going.
Well, you certainly embody that, and I appreciate it. Thank you so much for your time today, and have a wonderful 2023.
Thank you, Coach. I appreciate you.
All righty. Bye now.
Bye.